So in a couple days on Thursday, June 18th, 2020, it will have been exactly 2 years since I posted the first two solos from Charley Wilcoxon's All-American Drummer numbers 1 and 2. So I have 2 more to post, and as I'm nearing the end of this endeavor, I just figured I would share a little bit about the process that I've been using for posting these over the last couple of years. So briefly, gear. I use this Ahead practice pad. I like it for the following reasons. A, it is round and fits directly on top of a 14-inch snare drum. 2, the other side of it has a textured brush practice surface. And 4, it has a handle which comes in handy. It's pretty important to me to have a solid but light duty stand for it. You definitely want something that it's not gonna like bounce around and move around in. Well, when I first started this, I was on the road, so I wanted something that I could just stuff in a suitcase and not worry about it taking up so much weight. So this is actually a hybrid. The base of it is probably the most inexpensive snare stand I could find on Amazon. It's as light duty as they come. And then the basket is the basket of that one was like one of those classic like whatchamacallit, those like scissory things that you saw in like Ludwig's all the way up through probably the early 80s, which are terrible. They just never stay in the same place. So this is a Gibraltar. It's the lightest duty Gibraltar basket. It was a fit for this bass. It's solid and sturdy, but it's not anything that it doesn't need to be. For sticks, I don't use drum corps sticks. My go-to size is an X5B, like a 5B that's a little longer than 16 inches. For these exercises, I actually like something a little heavier, but certainly not drum corps style. So these are just, they're X5Bs, but a little beefier, I believe. With this stuff, it was important to me to have a designated stand and all this, and just kind of have it off in the corner of the room at the ready, so that I could, when I was ready to just knock one out, I could just pull it out. Didn't have to like swap out a snare and set up a stand and get things ready. Like I could just drag the pad and stand out and then just kind of go to work immediately. So my process for this is each one usually probably takes me on an average about 20 minutes. Some of them take 5 minutes. Some of them have taken up to an hour to get, you know, a take that I was at least satisfied with, that I felt like I didn't really make any mistakes. So the first thing I'll do is just read it down, take an entire pass and not be concerned at all with keeping a consistent tempo. I'll really just kind of read it down and just kind of see how all the stickings feel and make sure that I have them correct and that my hands know what they're doing. So that sounds something like this. Based on that, I'll usually have an idea of where I want to start. So what tempo I want to start learning it at, and what tempo I want it to ultimately be. If you're familiar at all with the book, there's the first 130 solos alternate between 10 in 2/4 and then 10 in 6/8, and back and forth until you get to 130. So the ones that are in 2/4, my goal tempo is usually 126 beats per minute, and the ones that are in 6/8 really kind of vary. I think usually they're usually lay pretty well around 80 beats per minute, sometimes a little less, about 76. But I've also done a few that are in 6/8 all the way up to like 140, I think. It really depends on how many notes are crammed into each beat in that particular solo. As I said, the ones that are in 2/4, I usually go for 126. However, if there's anything faster that are 30-second note doubles, in other words, 5-stroke rolls in the space of an eighth note or a 9-stroke roll in the space of a quarter note, usually 126 lays just fine. If there's anything that consists of more notes than that, then I back off the tempo accordingly. The gauge that I use for that is if there's a 7-stroke roll in the space of an eighth note. For example, in this exercise, if there's a 7-stroke roll in the space of an eighth note, like the pickup to this very first measure in number 146. In other words, the roll bass is doubles doing 16th note triplets. Then the tempo usually lies a little under about 116 or even less. As opposed to that second 7-stroke roll that you see there, which is the way he notates it, which is a 7-stroke roll spaced out over 3/16 notes, that is fairly comfortable and speaks well at about 126. So that's really kind of the gauge I use for figuring out what tempo what my goal tempo is for any of the ones in 2/4. Here, I made a little explanation of what I mean by that. So from there, I will just set my metronome to 80 beats per minute if it's 1 and 2/4, and play it down as many times as I need to in order to be able to get a good pass without screwing anything up. And then once I have like one solid pass where I felt like I kind of played everything cleanly, then I'll just bump the tempo up in 5 beat per minute increments until I get to my goal tempo, which is, let's just say it's 126. The ones in 6/8, I usually start at 60 beats per minute, starting with a triplet subdivision. And then when I get it up to around 80 beats per minute, I'll take away that triplet subdivision, making sure that the solo still sounds like it's in 6/8, like you can really feel that triple subdivision, and I'll work that up to whatever goal tempo I had in mind for that. And once I've gotten to my goal tempo, and played it through maybe 1 or 2 times successfully, I will put my phone on this little tripod and point it at me, and then I will just keep hitting record until I get a pass that I'm satisfied with. There have been a bunch that I got it on the first try, and there have been a few that I probably did like 30 or 40 takes before I got one that I was satisfied with, and everything in between. So as I mentioned, I have 2 more of these to do on the pad, and also do some lessons on how they can be applied to various musical styles such as swing, Latin, funk, etc.